And the batch size, the different batch sizes, again, how you're delivering the releases, how you're delivering the products in the form of the sprints, the work batches, all of that would come in. And availability of environment is another big factor, because in the context of software development, we've got, I think we keep talking about this, right? We've got at least three or three or four of these different types of environments when it comes to a software development. So we've got what we call as a development environment, where the developers, the designers, the team would actually work on the product in that environment, deployed there. And then from here, once it's in a good shape, that gets moved into the next environment, the second one, which is a test environment. So that's where the testers would actually come in, check the build, make sure they crash it, and then they try and rip that apart, try and find all the defects, the bugs, and then they start logging the defects, based on that build in the test environment. A third one is basically what we call the production environment, or the live environment. So basically, this is what the customers, the end customers, the users across the world would actually get to see. So that's the publicly available environment, which is live. Obviously, once it goes into live, we can't change it because it's already being accessed by some people. So it's good because we've got a separation of concerns. We can always try and test some new features. For example, Sonos wants to test the Dolby feature. What they do is they first develop it. The developers would first try and have a go. They try and develop it and then put it into the test instead of actually going directly into the live. The testers would then be able to test it for performance, for security, for safety, for reliability, all these other things, right? Not just functional. They'll do all these kind of things. They'll do hacking. They'll make sure it is all security. It's all security tested. Everything is done. It's high performant. It's not affecting. It's regression tested. Everything is done. And then once they get the check that, yes, it's all good, then that gets moved into the production, into the live environment, wherein people like me, you, and everybody else could actually kind of get to see and feel and experience the Dolby experience with the play bar. Yes, so that's the environments, which is important again in the context of agile, because when we discuss DevOps sometime later, I'm going to talk about how you can actually try and cut across these different environments, how you can make it more and more seamless. So you don't have to really wait a long time, do a lot of effort to try and move the build from development environment to the test, and from the test environment to the production environment. So that goes smoothly, seamlessly with what we call as a pipeline in DevOps. So developers do not have to ask or depend on the installation of this or deploy this build for the infrastructure team, for example, or the operations team. They don't have to really depend on them. With the DevOps, it's straight through. So once the build is in a good shape, that it actually gets into it's tested, it's all good, there's no bug or defect, it's performing well, there's no effect, it's regression tested. So from the test environment, directly it gets moved into the production environment. So they don't have to really wait for days and months, like in the traditional agile. Even in the agile mode, it still happens. But with the DevOps, or what we call as NoOps environment, this movement of the build from the development through to the test to the production environment is really smooth and seamless and quick. So it's easy for the developers to actually do some quick work, improvements, bug fixes, updates, and then push it out to the end customers and users directly without wasting a lot of time, effort, and money in the process. And that's why we're getting these updates. Instead of 6 months, we're getting it almost every week. And they're all automatically deployed on the server, and then the builds will get taken by the product. So that's the beauty of DevOps. We'll talk about that in the next few weeks as well. Very, very interesting. And then ambiguity. And then there's another aspect of irregular flow. It could come from external as well, not just from the internal aspect, where we have talked about within the staff, within the team, there is flow of work happening in multiple ways and multiple different streams. So it's not consistent enough. It could happen with the external environment as well, where the flow is not really consistent from outside to within the team, and from within the team to the customers and users and the stakeholders. And then obviously there are other aspects of requirements not being clear. That's as we discussed earlier. If you do not catch the bug in the requirement stage and the cup stage, it would grow into a tiger, fully fledged prowling tiger, by the time it reaches the development and testing. So it's better to actually kind of catch it in the cup stage, in the early stage, and then make sure that you address that defect. And that's where we're talking about the failing fast. You fail fast with agile. rather than you fail at the end after spending so much time and effort and money in designing, architecting, developing, and testing. Instead of that, if you can fail early, where you could catch it right in the early stage, in the requirement stage, you failed early, so you've actually kind of saved a lot of this money, time, and effort in the process. So again, that's where Kanban would really come into